All right, peace family. We are now live. Shout out to everybody in the digital building. Gonna have a good time tonight as usual. Y'all see, I got Billy Carson back. For those of you
Hey,
who is at the Blueprint for Blueprint for God Power, and I got a new guest, a special guest, and I'm about to introduce him. But before I do, I'm gonna get to a few commercials. So I want everybody to get comfortable. Make sure you hit that like button. That is extremely important. Tell your friends and family we are live. This is something that's going to truly, truly benefit you. I mean, spiritually, mentally, psychologically. This is something we need to hear in 2023. And it's a great way to start the year with this topic of the God mirror. So it's an amazing conversation we're going to have tonight. Let's get to a few commercials and we will be right back, family. Make sure you get comfortable.
Hey there! Had a bad dream? I have dreams too. Some parts are scary and some parts are fun. Always remind yourself, it's only a dream and everything will be okay. I had a dream about being in a forest too. Check it out, my pet Petey was with me. Order your copy of Kayla Petey and the Forest on Amazon today.
It's the numerational session with King Simon. Text your full name and date of birth to 347-496-1022. That's 347-496-1022. And get my books on Amazon now. Inner Alignment Workshop Through Your Eyes and Your Numero with Dr. Shakira Moore and King Simon on February 11th, 2023. Dr. Shakira and King Simon. Get your tickets now at Linktree/King Simon the Numerator.
All right, and we are back. Yes, we are back. Make sure y'all doing all right in the chat. All right. So without further ado, I want to also welcome Tim Storey to the platform. Welcome, my brother. Welcome.
What a privilege to be here. I was telling you I was really liking your hat.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you. Hey, listen, Tim, tell the people, for those who don't know and haven't heard about you, who you are. Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my background is I became a humanitarian. I went to university, went on and ended up getting a doctorate in world religion and a master's in therapy. But I did that for the reason of going to countries and working with people that were challenged and helping them to go from an almost life to an utmost life. I've now been to 78 countries of the world. And through Quincy Jones, he kind of like adopted me as a family member about 30 years ago and just started introducing me to everybody, including Oprah Winfrey. And she gave me an amazing platform over all these years. And so I'm a humanitarian, thought leader, and like to help people turn their setbacks into comebacks.
Indeed, indeed. I understand, Billy, Tim, I understand y'all have a workshop coming up the end of January.
yeah, we sure do. We have a workshop, a huge workshop coming up the end of January. It's actually January 29th. That's this month. It's my 4th annual Manifest Destiny workshop. It's my 4th year doing it. Every year it gets bigger and better. And I always try to bring something new to the table. And so this year I was able to partner up with Tim Storey and bring his perspective and his understanding and his wisdom and teaching over the years to this Manifest Destiny workshop to give the people another perspective, someone else to listen to, another voice that can help teach them how to manifest their best life.
Indeed. So I guess to start out with Tim, I mean, that's incredible that you've been to 78 countries. I mean, people are lucky if they could visit 3-4 countries in a lifetime. So to have been to 78 countries, that is amazing. You know, and you work with a lot of people in Hollywood. There's something that Jim Carrey said that is very, very interesting. Jim Carrey said, I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so they can see that it's not the answer. You being around so many people, having such a diverse experience with different cultures, different backgrounds, different mentalities, and hearing what I just said, Jim Carrey said, and I don't know if he said that verbatim, but it was something somewhere around that. What advice would you give to somebody at this point in your life about what life is all about?
I think that's very accurate. And I think the quote was right where you said it. And so I think that all of us are looking for significance and meaning. And so that's why I could meet a school teacher that might be teaching 5th graders and she could be super, super happy, maybe not making the same money as an NBA player, but happy because she's within her meaning and significance. So I think that part of success is finding what your purpose is.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I named the show the God Mirror, and there's a phrase we use in this community. We say when we see each other, sometimes we say, hey, peace reflections, meaning that when I see you, you're a reflection of my energy. You're meeting yourself constantly in this world. And consciousness is using what we call other to understand who itself is. And I think that's a clever experiment, whether we call it God or the universe or whatever day we have. It's a very clever way to understand yourself, is to meet yourself outside of yourself. And what I want to ask you is, Billy kept talking about perspectives earlier. He said you're going to offer a different perspective.
Yeah.
Now we're all different perspectives of this, all that is, or God, or whatever term a person may use. Now, if we're talking about peace and establishing peace in this world, let's think of the Avengers, the movie. You see, the Avengers thought they was striving for peace. Thanos thought he was striving for peace. Two different perspectives, but they ended up warring with each other because they couldn't see eye to eye. My question to you is, how can we have different perspectives on, my opinion, what peace is? Trump may have his opinion on peace. The Democrats may have their opinion on what peace is. But how do we have different perspectives, but at the same time maintain peace?
I love this. So, as you know, we learn three primary ways: education, conversation, and observation. So the education from where you come from and where Billy comes from might be slightly different than the education that where I come from. And then definitely all three of us have had different observations of different things. And then we've also had different conversations. And so the beauty is taking those three things, coming together like we are tonight, so we can say, hey, what have you seen that I haven't seen? What have you heard that I haven't heard? What have you been taught that I haven't been taught? And then we can enlighten each other.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Absolutely. That's a true statement. And you were talking a little earlier, Rich, about, when you see a reflection, it's a God mirror. And that breaks down into so many different fractals. Because if you look at the ancient Mayans, for example, they had a saying called Inlakek Alakin. And Inlakek Alakin means I am another you. And that's how they would greet each other. It was a God mirror greeting. It was peace reflections. It was peace, God. That's that's the way that people in ancient times would greet each other. And what it really means on a deeper level is that, in other words, I understand that there is only one consciousness that actually exists throughout the entire multiverse. And I'm just a small portion of it experiencing itself as Billy for this moment, for this temporal time, this temporary time. And that everyone that I run into is actually just another version of me, another version of the source, the God energy, the divine spark that created everything that exists in the entire multiverse. And so when I speak to someone, I have to understand that I'm talking to myself. And if I want to be treated a specific way, I have to remember, I have to treat everyone the way that I would like to be treated. It's the old adage that's been in biblical texts and many other texts, treat someone as you would like to be treated. And so when we start to realize and respect that everyone that's out there is actually a different reflection of the same source, you realize that you're talking to yourself. Right now, I'm talking to everyone that's on this live. I'm actually only talking to myself. And when you talk to somebody, you're talking to yourself as well.
That's very good. If you don't mind, I'd like to add something that I think it takes humility to be able to realize that somebody else's perspective may truly be able to enhance yours and maybe even change some things about the way you used to think, and you'll have a paradigm shift. I'll give an example. As great of a player as LeBron James is, he brought in Tim Duncan to teach him that shot from 15 feet out so he could bank it off the glass. And if you look at LeBron's repertoire of his shots, almost every shot that he's taken and really helped his game go to another level, he's learned from other players like Tim Duncan, the 15-foot,
Mhm.
Akeem Olajuwon, how to master the inside game. From Michael Jordan, that fade back shot from about 20 feet out.
Yeah.
So as all three of us are talking tonight, we are enhancing each other's games, but we got to be humble enough to take it from the other person.
Right.
Indeed.
Right.
Indeed. Do you think this conversation can seem a little insensitive when we're talking about the God mirror to somebody who was born in like harsh conditions? Like, I know you mentioned Oprah earlier, and she had a rough childhood. She'd been through a lot in her childhood. And people have a lot of traumatic childhood experiences. And when you say the God mirror, they're like, how did I make that happen? I was 4 years old. What are you talking about, the God mirror? So what would you say to somebody that looks at this as a little bit insensitive?
I think that it's a beautiful idea, because as all of us have spoken to people, when I go into inner cities, children that are 7 and 8, what do you want to be when you get older? They're saying things like a king, a queen, like Beyonce. They're talking big. They never say, I want to be broke. I want to have a lot of bad relationships. They're thinking God-like, because in my opinion, they're made in the image of. And so someone almost has to talk them out of the fact that they're not God-like.
Yeah, that's powerful. I see that all the time. The mainstream media will talk you out of your blessings. Your friends will talk you out of your blessings. People that are around you or that sometimes act like they're supporting you will try to talk you out of your blessings as well. You made a very good point there, because like I told before, I was in class in the 3rd grade, and the teacher asked everyone to stand up and say, hey, say what you want to be for your future career and what you want to do for a living. And I stood up and I said, I want to be famous and I want to be on TV. And I was all excited. And she cut me down right there and told me I would never be on TV and I would never be famous because I was broke and poor. And look where I come from. And everybody laughed at me. And so I had the God mindset. In other words, the mindset of, hey, I have the power in me to do whatever is available to me based on my conscious actions, because we know that consciousness backed by action is going to equal my manifestation. And so she's here trying to just tear and rip away, any potential God-like mindset I had for myself in creating my own reality, because a God mind is a creative mind that comes from the creator. So we're just a fractal of the creator. So we also want to create. That's why we have things on this planet. Everything here is created because we have a fractal of the main God consciousness. And so she tried to steal that from me, but I didn't let her. But some people will let someone come in and just literally snatch their dreams and their goals away. And then for some reason, they just never seek after them again. And we have to help reverse the minds of people that have gone through that type of torture. And it is a mental torture. There becomes a PTSD that develops after that. So we have to turn that PTSD into PTG. We have to turn it into post-traumatic growth. And so we got to change people's minds by doing workshops and classes and trainings and shows like yours, Richard, to help people see, no, you do have the divine spark inside of you. You just have to tap into it. And we all have gifts. Some of us just forgot to open our packages.
Indeed.
So good.
And what's kind of hard for a lot of people is that, when they're striving to tap into the greatest version of themselves, their friends and family will call them selfish. And it's kind of difficult being the one person in your group or the one person in your family who strives to be the best you can be, because nobody around you understands it. So and then when you look up and you become successful, you're around all these new people and it feels weird because you want to be with your day ones. You want to be there with your day ones when you finally make your $1 million or $2 million. You look up, now you're around people that you only knew for a year. So how do we get around striving to be our best, but at the same time, not getting into arguments with our family, not getting into arguments with our friends, not, just casting them to the side and saying, I ain't messing with these people no more. How do we navigate around that and be successful at the same time?
You said that so well. So a lot of what I do is life coach entertainers, as you know. So you could have the right purpose And then you could step out and write out the right plan. But the third step is you need to have the right partners. And I say that there's 3 levels of partnership. One is the acquaintance. It's like, you're from Alabama, I'm from Alabama. Okay. That's an acquaintance. The second would be your friends and your family and a community that is just a part of your daily life or weekly life. The third place is what I call the green room. And that is where the invited guests come. And you should only bring people in the green room that can handle your secrets and can handle your success. So if all 3 of us went and spoke at a conference, it was us 3, okay? And also, let's say, Dr. Dre, and we're all going to teach on success. They would say to us, okay, here's your green room, there's your green room, there's your room. And the whole idea is we kind of made it the way you wanted it. We put the snacks you like, and you're allowed to bring in maybe 8 to 10 guests into this green room. Now, when I have a green room before a big talk, I don't bring in people that can't handle the talk that's going to go in the green room. So you got to have those green room people. Otherwise, they got to be pushed out to the acquaintance. So that's a key to success for a lot of people watching right now, is that the more life allows you to graduate, not everybody's going to go and stay in your green room.
That's right.
But Tim, even your own mama, because your own mama might, you know what I'm saying? Your own mama might.
I'm gonna keep her in level 2. So my own mother, I actually stayed at my mother's house last night because my mother is super strong and she's 91.
Wow.
Excellent.
But there was a time about 10 years ago when she was 81, I had to have a talk with her. And I said, Mom, when I come to your house, don't talk negative about all the other family members because you're wearing me out.
Wow.
And so she went and called my sisters and saying not such great things about me. Tim, who does Tim think he is? He's really gone Hollywood, on and on and on and on and on. And then I came back to her a few days later. I looked her right in the eye. I said, do you still understand where I'm coming from? It was interesting. She almost turned into like a 12-year-old girl. And she said, I'm sorry. I said, Mom, I just can't take that.
Yeah.
I said, my life is all about something else. We can't tear down our own family members.
Yeah.
That was bold. You wasn't scared, Tim, when you did that? That's bold.
I would have been scared if I was about 11. Because I would have got whooped.
Yeah.
Listen, that's powerful. I went through the same exact situation. So unfortunately, both my parents passed away quite some time ago. And I have a younger brother who's now, I believe he's like 38 now. And he actually took over my dad's house after my dad passed away. And he calls or sends messages, but every single time it's something negative. And I mean, it's like back to back to back to back. So I stopped him. This is a few years ago. I said, look, every time you contact me, you just can't bring me negative or bad news or sob stories or this one's doing that or this one's doing this. I said, sometimes you have to have some good news. You're poison. You're contaminating my energy field. Like I need some peace. Call me with some good news. You know, I love you, man, but just don't keep doing this. It's just too much. I mean, you go in for hours and I have to just keep like a bobblehead doll the whole time you're talking to me. So he said, okay, no problem. A week later, he calls me back. I pick up. It's boom, boom, boom. He's just back to the same old trauma and drama. And I said, man, I got to take a break from this. So I had to block him. I blocked him for about a good year. I'm not going to lie. Blocked him on the phone, blocked him on social media, on the Facebook Messenger, which is another method he used to contact me. I took him off the block about maybe 7 months ago. As soon as he recognized I was off the block, he started, casual conversation, and then it came back again. Boom, boom, boom. And I was like, whoa, not again. I can't take it. Like, too much negativity. You're going to poison me. You're going to contaminate me. And even though I love you and you're my brother, my blood brother, I'm going to have to block you. And I blocked him. I cannot take the negativity. I got so much going on in my life and so much going on in the world. I got a lot of people relying on me. 25 people rely on me every single day. If I don't go to work, they can't pay their bills, take care of their babies, pay their car payments, their mortgages, whatever, because they're employees, right? And so I got to make sure that I'm on point. I can't have these negative thoughts seeping in. I'm worrying about this, worrying about people who I have no control over. He's okay. He's safe. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know everybody's business and all these crazy stories. And so sometimes the moral of the story is you have to go to the people that you love the most, that are closest to you from genetic standpoint. And you have to say, look, I'm going to have to put you over here for right now. Like I stopped going to visit my family in Melbourne, Florida for the holidays, because every time I would go for the holidays, there was drama. And one time I went up and I said, why am I doing this? Like, why am I putting my family in this situation every year? And then I just said, that's it, I'm done. From this point forward, I'll do my own holiday at my own house. If nobody comes, it's just us. We're happy. And I was so relieved. I had so much peace. And when you have peace, that's when you're able to grow.
Now, is this something y'all going to discuss at the workshop? Because success, a large part people don't talk about is dealing with your family. We think it's self-discipline and willpower and determination. Sometimes it's just dealing with family. So are y'all covering this at the workshop?
I have a whole section in my presentation to talk about dealing with family and friends and how they can steal your dreams and your manifestation. You could be on the road to manifesting your best life, and then here they come creeping in and just in a way that you won't even be able to perceive. They will start chipping away at your goals and your dreams until you turn around and realize, man, everything is gone. I was on such a good roll. What happened? And you'll be looking at this and that and trying to figure out what happened. It was them.
That is so good. And I think that that's one thing that Billy and I are willing to do, is to go deeper with people. And because it almost seems too tough, but it is tough. It's tough love. Yeah. And it's a matter of boundaries where we are basically saying, you know what, maybe our family has gone down this track for 3 generations, but we're pretty much saying no to that. And so we are setting the line. I wrote a book called The Miracle Mentality. This is it right here, The Miracle Mentality. And in this book, I talk about how a lot of our family members live in what I call the mundane, the messy, and the madness. Now, the mundane is like the less side of it. That's like the kindergarten side. But most of our family members really escalated into that messy side where everything's messy. Their mind is messy. Their house is messy. Their car is messy. Their language is messy. And all 3 of us on the screen, we refuse to be messy. I'm not a messy person.
No,
not at all. And there's no way I'm going to live in the madness. I cannot live in the madness because, as Billy said, I have way too much responsibility. You're carrying millions of people on our backs. That's how I look at life.
Yeah, you're right.
I love it. I definitely look forward to this workshop, Billy. And it's crazy because they have access to parts of our heart that nobody has access to. So that's why we're prepared for the end. We know we can see the enemy a mile away and we're ready, but they're so close to us. They got access to our heart, and then they just chipping away at it. They chipping away at it. So, oh man, that's gonna. I really look forward to that in the workshop. Definitely, really look forward to that. Definitely.
Yeah, man.
Let me ask you this now. What do you think about, you've helped a lot of people, Tim, and, in the new age movement, the positive movement, there's different names for the law of attraction movement. Something that's real popular is affirmations. Now, humanity tends to lie a lot. We use words in our mouth. We lie a whole lot, do a whole lot of lying. We don't mean what we say a lot of times. When you tell somebody to say affirmations, they may not believe what you're telling them to say. Now, according to Billy in quantum physics, your belief and your feeling projected is what is really interacting with this quantum field. So a person can say, I am rich, but they feel poor. In return, they become even more poor than they were before they said the affirmations. So how do you go about telling people to say affirmations and getting them to really believe it and not just say it and lie and it negatively affecting them?
Yeah, I think that this idea of everybody as a life coach now is obviously new in the last few decades. And I think it's gone too far. And I would agree that even in the area of affirmations, what one needs is a revelation.
Mm.
So all three of us on the screen, we have a revelation of what we're supposed to do on this planet. So I'm not out there wondering. I'm not looking in the mirror every day saying, you are a great. No, I have a revelation that I am supposed to rise up and really help a lot of people in helping them with the miracle mentality. So that is a revelation. So to be honest with you, I'm not constantly looking for a lot of affirmation because I'm so deep into the revelation.
Mm.
So like you see great athletes, they know that they know that they know that they know. When you get a revelation leads to conviction.
Mm.
You could see conviction jumping out of somebody's eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when you have that, affirmations are cool, but you won't be standing in line for one.
Right. Yeah, you hit the point on the head, Rich, with that. A lot of people lie to themselves. That's why part of what I'm teaching is in this Manifest Destiny workshop, there's a worksheet that I do every year. The worksheet it's the God mirror.
Yeah.
You're going to have to answer some tough questions on this worksheet about yourself. And I'm going to tell you, the people during the class, you have to be honest with yourself. Like the questions are really personal questions, but it's designed to open up the inside of their mind so they can see what's really going on. A lot of self-doubt, self-sabotaging, and all these other things. So you could be saying affirmation until your face turn blue, but if what's going on up in here is contradicting what's coming out of here, you're not going to get anywhere. And so it's all about teaching the system and the method of, first of all, let's get this right. How do we get this right? How do we reprogram some of your RNA and stuff like that? We have to go through first the consciousness. We have to go through the trauma. So we have a licensed trauma release specialist coming on this workshop. Her name is Antonina Sanford, and she's going to actually walk them through an interactive trauma release that was developed by a doctor that's used in major hospitals and rehab centers. A way to help relieve the body from actual trauma that's been stored in the cells. And it was created by a doctor. Then we have Elizabeth coming on to also teach information about the mental state, how to clear the mind, how to clear the cells in the body, how to use different modalities to get yourself back in sync, how to get back in brain-heart coherence. And then, of course, I'm coming on with the quantum field, and we have Tim Storey coming on with the miracle mindset. This is a dynamic combination in a way to really tear somebody apart from the inside and then help them put themselves back together. We're not going to put them back together. We're going to open them up so they can see what's going on, and they're going to put themselves back together.
You said trauma release specialist, Billy. Wow, that's big.
That's huge.
Big. That's
this
big.
Is huge. Yeah, this is going to be the best one I've ever done.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it so different is that you look at a lot of events that are taking place literally all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is really sprinkled with all these affirmations and who you are, how great you are, and mantras and jumping up and down. What Billy is saying is that sometimes you gotta take somebody apart, and we've all been through that. All three of us on this screen, we had to allow life to dismantle us and to take real inventory to see what needed to stay and what needed to go.
Absolutely. That's the only way. I've really come to the conclusion that literally is the only way to excel past and beyond, and teaching people how to have that confidence in themselves. Like I said before, if Michael Jordan walks in this room right now and challenges me to a one-on-one, if I take the challenge, in my mind, I believe I can beat him.
Yeah.
And every single day we wake up and we take on a challenge every single day just to go out into the world and do what we have to do. That's a challenge. But a lot of people wake up and go out into the world haphazardly. They're haphazardly. They're taking a challenge they don't think they can win. If I take the challenge, in my heart of hearts, I believe I can beat him. Now, are the odds against me? Yeah, it's Michael Jordan. Even at his age, he's a couple years older than me. He can still probably do some damage. But on that day that I'm playing him is the day that I'm going to win. That's what's going on in my mind and in my heart. That's a different level of thinking that a person has to have the epiphany to get to rise up to in order to take challenges on every single day, because just waking up and going out into the world is a challenge. But how are you approaching that daily challenge? What are you doing to attack that challenge with the mindset that is you're going to win everything? If you're going out there thinking you can't win, guess what? You ain't winning nothing. When I wake up, the first thing I say is I want peace in my life today. This is going to be a day of peace. The next thing I say is every challenge that comes in my way, I'm going to destroy it. That's my mindset. My mindset is I'm going to attack every challenge. I'm going to have bumps in the road. I'm going to get blindsided about things. I'm going to have unforeseen situations pop up, and I'm going to look for a solution for every single one. So another thing I'll be doing is teaching how do you become a solutions provider? How do you either find a solution or become the solution in situations that arise, instead of taking the victim mentality and falling prey to what's going on around you?
Indeed.
That is life-changing. I almost want to vote him in for president, but I think he's got more important things to do. Indeed. Can I throw something in that I think is kind of cool? I remember one time being at Quincy Jones' house, and there was nobody else. You got to understand, when you're with Berry Gordy one-on-one or Quincy one-on-one, it's kind of weird, because these are people we looked up to all our lives, and our relatives looked up to them. And now you're with them, just you. It's nobody else. It's just you. Okay. So Quincy was asking me about a project that he was working on. And he says, what's your opinion on how I should do this? Which I thought was pretty dope. And so I was being very cautious. And he goes, little brother. And he got up and he goes, this area is the no fault zone. And he says, and it's the no judgment zone. So throw out anything you want, and I'm not going to judge you for it. Throw out any idea you want, and I'm not going to fault you. He says, this is what we did when we made Thriller. He said it was the no judgment zone. And he even told me like how Billie Jean, that song was different. And then they went into the no judgment, no fault zone and just started throwing out different lyrics. You know how powerful that is? He said, Tim, you know how limited we can become because we're so afraid to be at fault and to be judged. That changed me.
Yeah.
It's powerful. It's powerful. I could, just a personal example, I could relate to that as a music producer. There was sometimes I'll be in the studio and my lady, she's a writer, and I'll be like, you got to be more provocative. Let it out. Stop holding it in. Just let it out. And I'm like, she like, people, what are people going to think if I write this? I'm like, just let it out. Just, you know what I'm saying? So I understand what you say with that. What I want to touch on is that, you know, everybody in life can be a teacher. You can learn from everybody. And I think there was a study that said a lot of millionaires are psychopaths. I think, have you heard of that, Billy? Have you heard of that?
I never heard that quite put that way, but that's interesting.
now, one thing, okay, because you was talking about the reason why I thought of this question, because you was talking about you being able to beat Michael Jordan. Yeah. Now, an average person will think you're crazy for thinking that way. Right. So one thing maybe I was thinking when thinking about that study and thinking about what you say, maybe one thing we can learn from somebody who may be have a few nuts missing or is a psychopath is that they're delusional optimists. The average person is not a delusional optimist. They're programmed to think a certain way. Now, if you're not like the average person, you may be a delusional optimist. So talk to me about maybe learning from people who may not have it all together in some areas, but when it comes to achieving certain things, they have this ability to be completely delusional about it, and they tap into that and they achieve it.
Yeah, you know, some people have this the capability of seeing past all their fears. You know, it's not that they don't have fears that creep up on them, because everyone has them. If they say they don't, they're lying. Those fears exist. Yeah. But some people will just shoot right through the fears and then look back at them like, hey, you see, I told you I was going to do this. And so some people, the fear becomes a gigantic wall and they can't penetrate that. They just get to the wall and they stop, and they feel like that wall is so thick they can't get through it. And so what you can learn from a person like the three of us that are on here, it takes, first of all, a lot of courage to come on a live YouTube or TV or any other thing you do and speak out to people all over the world. We have people here all over the world, thousands of people listening to us, and then be transparent and vulnerable and let out what's inside of your heart and in your mind, and not be afraid to just, you know, give the people what you're thinking about. And so you can learn from people that have the capability of going through the fear. surfing right through it and getting to the other side, because on the other side is where all the glory is located. And so you can say, wow, well, if this guy can do it, I try to be a beacon. If he can do it after what he went through in his life, then I can do it too. And teach people how to take a step-by-step process to overcome one fear at a time, working their way towards getting through that brick wall. And eventually, when you do get to the other side of that wall, I'm telling you, when you get to the other side of that wall, you realize you really didn't have nothing to fear at all. It was all just program coding, trying to shut you down and self-sabotage you from getting to a higher level of understanding, a higher ascension of knowledge and wisdom, a higher level in business, a higher level with your family and your kids. It was all just programming, trying to pull you back, crabs in a bucket. So the crabs in the bucket sometimes aren't people. The crabs in the bucket sometimes are thoughts. And those thoughts try to keep you locked into this flesh robot, this three-dimensional object that we call an avatar, which is really not you anyway. And it wants to lock you in and not let you see it. You can transcend this thing. This thing is just temporary. It's temporal. But you yourself, spiritual, you can ascend to higher dimensions. And so, but that again takes what? You got to release the fear. And so teaching people how to break through that fear and get through that wall is a big part of what we teach in the Manifest Destiny workshop.
Billy, that's deep. I never heard somebody say, I've always heard the phrase crabs in a barrel and people being crabs in a barrel. I never heard nobody say the crabs in a barrel being your thoughts. Never heard that before. And that's deep because I hear you and Elizabeth talking about how your thoughts aren't you.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Wow.
Your thoughts aren't you. You're the observer of your thoughts.
You're the observer.
But if you don't realize that, then you think you become the thought, and then the thought controls you. It's just a programming code, a synapse sending an electrical charge in between two neurons, and you become that. But you can transcend that and realize that you are the ghost in the shell. And when you get to that point, that's when you realize your true power.
Whew. Billy's not playing, just so you know.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it, man.
I'll tell you something. I went to the Masters one time to just watch the golf tournament. Yeah. I didn't know anybody playing at the Masters. Nothing like that. I just went with some people who do well. They wanted to fly me on their plane, show up where the Masters is in Georgia. Mm-hmm. And Tiger Woods was on a roll at that time. And he was going to win that particular year that I saw. True story. I nestled in next to his mother just because I felt like it. And they just looked at me like I belonged there. So I just stayed there. Everywhere she walked, I walked. And she would just nod at me. It's a true story. But when Tiger would walk by to go to the next shot, you could literally feel him. He was so focused. There was this whole flow that he had. You could feel him. I'm going to tell you, I've been on sets with movies with stars, and I won't say the one, but we all know him, all of us. And I could feel this guy walk up behind me. Billy, what is that where you could feel somebody?
Well, when I went to MIT, they taught the scientific part of that, what you're talking about right now. It's a real thing. Okay. So we know that the human heart creates a torus energy field. And it's an electromagnetic field that actually extends outside of the body and extends, some people 5-8 feet, some people 10, some people 20 feet.
Wow.
And if you really tapping into your power, it can go as far as 35-40 feet away. Now, what's interesting about this, in that energetic magnetic field that extends out of the body in the form of a torus, your hormones also ride out on those magnetic fields. If it's cortisol, anything that's going on inside your body that's spiking, adrenaline, right? So now you've got Tiger Woods or anybody at their height of whatever the power, that wherever they're focused on, walking into a room or walking by, their field is now what? It's entangling with your field. What I learned at MIT was, as the hormones, the adrenaline, the cortisol, and everything else that's in their body, whatever's being released, is transferring into your field, and you're downloading it into your body through your magnetic field. So you can actually feel literally the energy and the hormones from that other person. If that person's in a high frequency, high energy mindset and high ultra focus, you will feel that, and you actually will spike. If they were able to test you at that same exact time, you probably would have saw that your hormones had spiked as well, the same ones that he was emitting.
Incredible.
Yeah, and so that's how it works. And so you can actually, when somebody says they walked in a room and lit the whole room up, well, that's actually a real statement scientifically. It
Literally.
really can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can walk into a room and you can raise everyone in the room's energy if you're vibrating high enough.
That's
so
powerful. Yeah, that's I've heard celebrities say that about Michael Jackson before. The question you just asked him, Tim, I've heard a lot of people, celebrities, say that when they met Michael Jackson and felt that from his aura.
No doubt about it. And the interesting thing about like a Pharrell or Michael, or I've been in with Kanye a lot in the studio, like for decade. And he could even be in a quiet mood, but there's truly genius going on. And so it's not even about being loud or being like full of fancy words. It's more than verbal.
Tim, you freezing? Are you there?
I think you just froze.
Yeah, can you see me now?
Yeah, Tim. Yeah.
I was doing the robot. Sorry about that.
No, Tim,
but I was saying that even with like quiet guys like Pharrell or Kanye in the studio, is that it wasn't just all the words they said, but it's just as Billy was saying, it's literally coming from them.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned Kanye. I've been to my fair share of rap concerts in my life. One of the last ones I went to was Made in America in Philadelphia, and Kanye was the headliner. I felt that from Kanye. I've never felt that before at a rap concert. I've even seen Jay-Z on stage, and Made in America, he was electrifying. I mean, that's the word. He was electrifying. So
he was in a good place at that time, and I saw that as well at the time that he was doing that event.
That was the Yeezus era. That was the
when he
came out
with in a very good place in a zone. But there's no doubt about it. Like in the church world, we would have said like he's anointed. So you guys have always heard that word,
right?
And truly he is anointed, but we're all anointed as well. But also he learned to step into a whole other place. I mean, that brother, number one, Donda West was no joke. So she really instructed him from day one of who he was. I mean, watch that documentary. She was in his mind and in his soul.
Wow.
When we talk about success, and the more successful you become, the more people you encounter. I mean, you become global. You're meeting people from all over the world. Everybody you meet and everybody you network with may not have the same morals or principles that you may have. But this is the business world, and we're networking and we're getting things done. And you don't have to agree with everybody or have to belong to the same religion as everybody when you are pursuing certain things. One thing Kanye said about Jay-Z was that he knows how to move in a room full of vultures. So since we're talking about manifesting our destiny, for those who get to a certain level of success, and they're out there, they're doing their thing, but now it's time to network with, say, Vladimir Putin or whoever, and you may not have the same, morals as this person. How do you go about conducting business with somebody you may not see eye to eye with if it wasn't business, but because it's business, you're in the same room together? How do you go about that for those who are nowhere near that level, but they will be one day?
Well, what I try to do is I try to build my own networking circles, to be honest with you. Now, I have been in situations where there's been people that I've had on the other end of a deal that I've had to deal with, even though I know I didn't see eye to eye with that person. But what I do is I analyze the deal. Is this deal going to help people, or is this deal going to hurt people? If it's going to help people, then I will do my part and I'll take my cut. If it's going to hurt people or has the potential to hurt people, then I'll just say, no. I mean, I've had major Fortune 500 corporations come at me since I built this whole influencer empire. And we've turned down over 200-300 offers for major mainstream, deals, hamburger joints and chicken joints. I'm not going to put their name out there. But I said no, because why? I'm not on the same frequency with that. I'm not gonna sell soda pops and all this kind of stuff they want me to sell to people, because I'm not going to drink it. I'm not going to eat that stuff. I'm never going to shop there. And so that would be, it'd be hypocritical. And so I try to put myself in situations. I turn down some situations just because I know I'm not on the same frequency, but there have been some that I've been, the person connecting me, we're on the same frequency, and the end result is a benefit for everyone involved, even though maybe somebody beyond that I don't see eye to eye with. But at the same time, what I try to do is build my own networks. So that's why I created my own social media platform, right? Mm-hmm. Unite the 99. And in there, those are supportive people. We're networking. We have groups in there where we're all networking. I started my own mentoring program, the Billy Club. You know, 40 of us are going to the Billionaires Club together, and we're networking together and building together. So I'm putting people around me on the same mindset, on the same frequency, with the same goals, with synergistic businesses. To get into the Billy Club, you can't just join my mentoring program. There's an application you got to put in. Then once the application comes in, it's reviewed. And once it's reviewed, if it's even close to being, we need to, take a look at this person, then you get the first phone call. After the first phone call, there's a second phone call. And after the second phone call, we feel you're not a good fit. Then I don't care how much money you got, you ain't getting in. Mm-hmm. This is 40 people that I'm dealing with, that I'm going to have my personal contact and communication and energy transfer with. And I'm going to be very particular and peculiar on who I let into that circle. It's going to be a small number, and it's going to be people that literally resonate. So what I decided to do was I decided to begin to build my own network. That way, I don't have to rely on people that I don't see eye to eye with. I tap into what I created myself.
Do you know how powerful that is? So the old way, we always thought we needed to find a way across the street and get these people to like us. Mm-hmm. Billy's saying, I like myself, and I'm going to educate myself to such a level, have an awareness to such a level, have a revelation to such a level that I am going to build my own empire, and they're going to want to come across the street to me.
Right.
Very, very powerful stuff. Back in the day, my buddy, his name is Byron Allen. I know Byron maybe 30 years. He now owns the Weather Channel, and he's got like a $30 million home in Beverly Hills. Mm. But when I first met him, he didn't have all that. He just looked like a guy with a rickety old camera doing these little Byron Allen shows.
Yeah.
But one of my friends in the industry said, you better watch out for Byron. Mm. That brother's building an empire. Mm. He wasn't over there begging everybody. Mm-hmm. He was building like what Billy's talking about.
Mm. And now he's a billionaire.
He is. And now everybody's trying to get to him.
That's right. Yeah, he built it from the ground up, self-made. And listen, this guy's buying up media networks like you wouldn't believe. Incredible.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Byron Allen. I remember him from back in the day. One day I looked up and I heard he was a billionaire. I said, how he became a billionaire? it just happened like that. So I mean, shout out to the brother Byron Allen.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out once again to everybody in the chat. We got about 2,500 people live with us right now in the chat. Before we continue, I'm gonna ask one more question. We're about to pass the hour mark, and then we're gonna get to a few brief Q&A with the family in the chat room. So before I get into this question, Billy, can you tell the people one more time about this workshop you and Tim Storey are doing at the end of this month?
Definitely. I emailed you the link, by the way. If you get a chance to drop it in the caption or the chat, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So the workshop is called the Manifest Destiny Workshop. It's the 4th time doing this. It's actually more than 4, because the first year I did it, it sold out each time. It was in person back then. There was no online. And so it sold out 3 times in the month of January. So in January, I did 3, and each one of those classes had about 500 people in it. Then, then from there, the global sickness took effect. So I had to go online, which actually was a greater benefit, because online, you don't have to worry about taking notes and scribbling down and trying to remember what I said, because you can't record it because you're sitting there and you're trying to write and record. Now it's on a live stream that you can pause, replay, go back. If you can't watch the whole thing the same day, you can go back, because it's going to be 8 hours of teaching. You can go back and replay it later on. You have unlimited access to the replays. So it's actually a benefit. Plus, you don't have to pay for airfare to get to the location. You don't have to pay an entrance fee, which is usually $300 or $400. You don't have to pay for the Uber and your food and your meals and the babysitter and the dog sitter and all this other stuff. So you're saving thousands of dollars to come to an online teaching by some of the top, in my opinion, some of the top thought leaders and teachers in this area in the world. And you're going to be getting an interactive class where you're actually going to be asked to do something back and forth. You're going to get a trauma release session from a licensed trauma release specialist, which nobody has ever done that in the history of any of these workshops. So you're getting something that's going to be so incredible, so mind-blowing and life-changing. It's a great benefit. So it's the Manifest Destiny workshop, and it will be Tim Storey, Elizabeth Hoekstra, Antonita Sanford, and myself, Billy Carson. And it's on eventbrite.com. If you type in my name, Billy Carson, on Eventbrite, the event should pop right up.
Indeed. I just pinned the link. You sent me the link. I just pinned it at the top of the chat, family. So you can click on the link at the top of the chat if you are interested in that workshop. I want to ask you, Tim. Now, we just talked about you know, that aura oozing off of a person. And we mentioned Kanye. Who was the other gentleman we mentioned? We mentioned Kanye. Who else we mentioned? We
talked about Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods, yeah. Let me ask you this, Tim. Now, you're very successful at what you do in Hollywood. You're in a market that's highly saturated, this self-help market, but you are at the top of the class when it comes to that market right there. Do you think the same thing that Tiger Woods have you got, and that's what makes you so successful in Hollywood?
Let's ask Billy.
I think so. Listen, I've met this man in person.
Yeah.
And he's a magnet. So when you meet Tim, first of all, it's a warm welcome, number one. His eyes are focused on you. He's listening to everything you're saying, and he's trying to literally analyze what you're saying and where your perspective and where you're coming from, so he can relate and he can become relatable to you. Mm-hmm. And he's very he asks questions to you about yourself instead of sitting there talking about himself. That's the first thing I noticed. This guy's asking me questions about me instead of bragging about himself, which he can do all day, to be honest with you, with the contacts and people that he has. He can sit there for 10 hours and brag about himself, and I don't have to get a word in edgewise. But no, he's asking us questions, and what with concern and sincerity, and you know, and it just was a great way to break bread with somebody and find out where they are mentally, and he can find out where I am mentally. But I'm just telling you, his aura, his energy is strong, and the way that he maneuvers is just powerful, and that's why people flock to him. People come to him. He doesn't chase people. They call him. Something's going on. There's a problem with somebody. They pick up the phone. They call Tim. Why? Because Tim's going to take care of the problem. Because why? They know he has the power to.
No, thank you. Thank you for that, Billy. And I feel that, you know, first of all, that I've been given a gift to be like a locksmith. And I was like that since I was a kid. Like if I saw somebody struggling, I would try to find a way to unlock them. And so in the area of entertainers, I became very skilled at how does somebody turn their setback to a comeback. So when Robert Downey Jr. was struggling, it was his guy, who's also famous, that said, man, you got to see the guy, Tim Storey, and this guy's going to help you out. That was in 1999. In 2006, the first Iron Man comes out, and then Robert starts to average about 80 million a year. When I met him, he was not making 80 million a year, and he was not Iron Man. And in fact, one of our major newspapers said that he was finished. He was done. And so I think a skill set can bring you before kings. That's what one of the proverbs says. You see a person skilled at their work, they will serve in the presence of the kings.
I love it. That's powerful. Wow. And you know what I believe? I believe that the people that are coming to learn are the kings and the queens, or the kings and the goddesses, however you want to call it, because they just haven't, if they don't know it, they haven't tapped into it yet, but they're coming to get the knowledge so that they can realize who they are. So it's a play on the words of, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. when the teacher is ready, the master will appear.
Yeah,
We're
so
both
good.
the student, the teacher, and we're also the master.
What do you Tim, what do you think about surrendering? You know, we talk about letting go and letting God and surrendering. What do you think about surrendering to the flow of things versus making things happen? Like, I'm gonna make this happen. I'm gonna will it to existence. Are they different? Are they one and the same? What's your thoughts on that?
I think that it's very important that you don't chase anything.
Mhm.
All three of us don't have to chase anything, but we do have to cooperate with who we're supposed to be. So let's for the sake of call it the universe. So if the universe speaks over you, then there is an alignment to the assignment. Like, there's a lot of entertainers I work with that they tell me that when they were little, they knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, they all say, yeah.
Or I talk to their parents and their parents will say, I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I believe in that case that God has spoken over us. And now what I need to do is I need to cooperate with what heaven already said. So I promise you guys, like when people have always come to me and they said, like, how do you work with this person after that person after this person for 3 decades? That's over 30 years working with Stevie, Smokey Robinson, all the way to Leo DiCaprio too. I mean, all types of whatever genre of entertainment. Never chase one. Never chase one. I'm simply cooperating with who I'm supposed to be.
I love it. That's powerful.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. What, I think to myself, if this is an experiment from the all that is or God, and this being wanted to experience itself, and in doing that, this being loves us so much, it's given us free will and unconditional love. If I was just being, if it got out of hand, I would have to pull the plug on free will because, too many wars might break out, too much craziness might go on. I might say, hey, I might have to end this experiment right here. Do you think that's what happens when great calamities hit, or when we see the end of the world scenarios where there's a ice age or this happens or that happens, most of the world gets wiped out? Do you think it is this force we call God saying, I got to pull the plug because this is getting out of hand right here? I love them, but this is getting out of hand. Do you think that's what happens when the creator does that when it gets too out of hand?
I'll go with Billy first.
It's pretty interesting because what you just described is the end scene in The Matrix when he goes into the room with the architect and all those screens are up for all the previous civilizations. And if you look at Earth, it's had many, many cycles that has happened over and over and over. For millions of years, it's been rises and collapses of not only human civilizations, but even different animal civilizations, right? You're talking about dinosaurs and ocean life and everything else has risen and fallen. We know that because we have the evidence of the bones and the fossils all over the world. And so it's pretty interesting that there seems to be this reset from time to time. If you look into the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is the full story of Noah, Zazudra, who's actually in the ancient Sumerian, is actually Noah in the modern day Bible. You see the same scenario there again with this global flood, and every single civilization that you analyze and read about on the entire planet, they always have this flood that occurred which wiped everything out. And so it's pretty interesting that these resets or these cycles happen for time to time. The fact that we're alive right now and able to have this kind of communication, interaction, and travel all over the place at this particular moment in time is actually just a miracle, because there's so much that is threatening the planet at any given time. We're living in a small, tiny space of peace on a geological time scale. In other words, for us, thousands of years is a long time, but it really is, that's a blink of an eye on geological time scales. So we're blessed to be in this part. And so it's really a great question, because it's saying, well, if this is a matrix, which is an experiment, and matrix doesn't take away from creation, because matrix is a creation. I think we're living in a light matrix. It's just a method. I'm explaining the method of the type of system that we're in that creates what we see and what we operate in. Could there be a button being pressed to say, okay, we got to try this one more time? Ultimately, I think this is a program that continuously is running from the creator. This program is running and it's trying to collect data and information and sort itself out. And so from my own perspective, it seems like the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, is on a data collection mission, right? Because if you look at as above, so below from the Hermetic principles, you see that the universe appears to be a conscious mind, just like your brain inside of your head is a universe that's a conscious mind. Your brain doesn't know what's going on out here. It's inside the skull, encased in darkness, but it has friends: hearing, touch, smell, feel, right? The senses. The 5 senses go out. The brain says, hey, go out there and collect me some data so I can figure out what's going on. So your senses go out into the world: taste, touch, smell, hearing, feeling, and then collect this data. They themselves don't understand what the data is. They can't decipher the data. What they do is they send the data straight to the brain. The brain then sorts it all out real quickly and then projects a hologram as to what's going on outside. And you navigate through the 3rd dimension based on a hologram. That's how we move around this whole thing. But now that's a fractal of the whole. So if we're collecting data and we're a fractal of God, then what is God doing? God is collecting data. It wants to know what it's like to be Billy Carson. It wants to know what it's like to be Tim Storey or Richard Merritt or even a blade of grass. It wants to know what it's like to be a rock, even what it's like to be an atom.
Oh man, I think he hit the button. His energy was so powerful. He hit the button.
Powerful. He evaporated. Hey, but I want to say something. That was a great question that you asked, and
thank you.
I think that part of this whole idea is, Billy, I was just saying that was a great question that he asked, and that also this answer you just gave is profound. But the beautiful thing about being human is that we can stop and take inventory and say, how is this really working out?
Mm.
And then we can adjust ourselves. And I think that this is one thing that Billy and I are so excited about, even with the seminar that we're doing, is that some people need a slight adjustment and some people need a major adjustment.
Mm.
And the slight and the major can change outcomes.
Mm.
So I am very, very optimistic about the future of the world.
Yeah.
Because I see it in the eyes of children.
Mm.
Ooh.
Little kids still got that look of wonderment in their eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's the future of humanity is the children.
Yeah.
You know, that's primarily where my teaching is targeted toward, trying to go towards a younger generation and get them to correct themselves in a way that they can then, their children, when they're born or they're growing up, they're now getting a different type of teaching. So what we're doing here is drawing a line in the sand and saying enough is enough. These generational curses and all this stuff that's been going on, it ends here with me. It's over. It's
Very
over.
good.
I'm focused on, legacy building. How do we build a legacy? I'll be teaching a lot about building a legacy in this workshop. How do you build your legacy? How do you set up a legacy, not only for your family, but also for the humanity, people on the planet? You know, when they look back 1,000 years from now, not just my kids, but anyone looking back in time to this particular era in time, I want them to be able to say, hey, I remember this guy. We studied this guy in school, this guy named Billy Carson. You know, this guy is a founding father of the movement to help bring mankind back into a golden age. That's the kind of legacy I'm looking for. What mark can I leave behind that's going to have an effect that travels all the way into the future? When I look at these ancient tablets, I see that these people would plan for millennia. Nowadays, people are planning for what they're going to do next week with their paycheck. When I get my paycheck, I got to pay the rent. I'm going to pay this car. I'm going to pay half of this car payment. And then no, these people plan for millennia in advance. And then I said, wow, I wonder if anybody else plans like this. So I started researching planning. I found that Mitsubishi plans for 350 years. This corporation out there have 500-year plans. I said, well, why in the hell ain't I doing this? I should be doing the same thing. So now I got plans that go on for hundreds of years. Because why? Why not? If they're doing it, and the Sumerians put this plan in action thousands of years ago, bicameral Congress. We still have the same exact political system till this very day. School system, same school system till this very day. Street grids, same street grids till this very day. And when Enlil was talking about creating this plan, he told his sister in the tablets, this plan is going to last for all time. This guy planned for all time. Forget millennia. He planned for eternity. And so I'm saying to myself, wow, I'm missing a boat here. I'm planning for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. No, I'm going to teach you how to plan for millennia. How do you plan for your legacy? That's another big teaching I'll be doing.
I love that. And I love the fact that he even told us he's going to be in history books. So I believe it. When you said it, it was just as fact.
Yeah, I believe it.
Indeed, man. Wow, this is some powerful stuff. I know when I have a great show because I feel so energized after the show. And I'm on 100 right now, family. I'm on 100. I feel like, wow. I feel like Tim keeps talking about like a child. I feel like a child right now. So I'm loving it. I'm loving the energy from Tim. I'm loving the energy from Billy. I'm excited about this workshop. Let's get to some Q&A from y'all. Shout out to everybody. Thanks for joining us. We got almost 3,000 people in here. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being interested in this on a weekday night. Y'all could be doing anything else in the world, but thanks for being here with us. Let's get to some questions. All right. Let's see what these guys are told. Let's see what they're talking about. All right. Somebody says Q and pole shifts. Billy, could you comment on? I guess they want to know about the pole shifts.
Yeah, it's one of my biggest topics I used to talk about back in the mid 2000s. So you have two types of pole shifts that occur on the Earth geologically. The first kind is a pole shift of the magnetic field of the Earth itself, and we know that these pole shifts occur around every 26 to 27,000 years because when we go to craters for volcanic activity, and we look at the actual rocks, we can actually tell the magnetic field in the rock has been shifted from a north to a south or south to a north. So we know that in the past, magnetic fields of the Earth flip. So what you would use your compass would be as true north right now, about 30,000 years ago, that was actually south because the magnetic fields flip. And so we know that happens. So now when that happens, which actually in the process of happening right now, we know that a lot of airports have had to change the degrees for the locations of their runways because magnetic north has moved from true north. It's now a little bit past Russia. So magnetic north is on its move again. Eventually it will flip. There'll be a complete flip. We'll have to reprogram all the satellites and everything else. But there's also another type of pole shift that occurs, which creates geological disasters. And that's a pole shift of the crust of the Earth itself. We know that we have continental drift. All the continents are sitting on top of these tectonic plates that move and float on magma. And these plates lock, okay? And so when they lock like this, they hold everything in place. But sometimes at certain specific cycles, they slip. And you can get a huge slippage. We know this for a fact because Antarctica was not in a location where it's at now. Antarctica has animals that are frozen that belong in a more tropical climate. And when these animals now, with all this ice melting, they're taking these animals out of the ice, they're cutting them open, they're finding undigested food in their stomachs. What does that tell us? As geologists, it tells us that that continent shifted into that position at a very, very rapid pace. And with that type of speed, it would have caused probably a 50% global flood on the planet. And it would have been flash frozen because when you have that much fresh water running up on top of the land and that kind of temperature where it's located now, it's a flash freeze. And that's why there's undigested food in their stomachs. So we know that a pole shift of the crust has happened because the evidence is Antarctica. And so this pole shift of the crust will happen again. And it will happen because we know that our sun is not the only sun in this solar system. We have a binary star system. There's two suns. One is a brown dwarf or a red dwarf star, which orbits far outside the orbit of Pluto. It's about only less than a quarter the size of our sun. You can only see it in infrared mode. You have to go to 2-mass infrared mode to be able to see it. But astronomers have now found it, and it's fact. It's science fact. It's being taught in astrophysics. It has a few small planetlets or small mini planets orbiting it, and it orbits our sun every 4,200 years. The importance of this is when it's getting ready to orbit our star, a big yellow sun, which is actually really white in space, when it orbits, it creates a gravitational wave. Those gravitational waves ripple in. Those ripples of gravitational waves create friction. Friction generates heat, but also can loosen tectonic plates. So there's always a risk. And if you look into biblical texts and Sumerian tablets and the cuneiform tablets, you look into the Mahabharata, you look into the Indian Vedas, and you start seeing this track record of these cycles where this big, massive thing happens where the planet heats up and plates shift and there's a global flood. There's been more than one global flood, according to these civilizations. So that's what pole shifts are. It's just it's a geological hazard that we have to, at some point in the future, we'll have to face.
I had no idea you was going to go that deep in that question. You a smart dude, Billy. You a smart dude, man. Wow, man. I had no idea the answer was good. Wow. I'm going to put that clip on Instagram, man. Wow,
that was really powerful. So when most young people were collecting baseball cards, this is what Billy was doing.
I know, for real, right?
I was studying encyclopedias, geology, economy, astrophysics, aerospace.
Wow. Let's get to this next question. This is interesting. What if the negative person around you all the time is your spouse?
Now you take that, Tim.
Yeah, that's a common question. And, I think that we always need to be fair. Okay. But we need to be firm, fair and firm. And so what I mean by fair is we don't know why that person's negative. Maybe their father was abusive to them. And that's why Elizabeth's going to be talking about trauma during the workshop. So I'm always fair with somebody. If someone messes with me, I want to see like where are they coming from. So if your spouse shows through the marriage that they're trying to bring you down, hurt you, be fair, pay attention. But I'm also going to be firm, and that I have these boundaries. And as much as I love you, I'm not going to tolerate that voice, that tone, that way. And we might even go to therapy, but it's going to be for this period of time. And if it doesn't change, then I would not consider this a marriage.
Okay.
That's powerful. That is what it is. You got to listen. Peace is the ultimate goal. And once you put forth the full effort from your part, the other person has to reciprocate. I get it.
Definitely. Great answer to that question. Wow. Let's get to the next question. Has anyone timed manifestations from the time they meditated? Can it be measured?
That's a good question. Timing manifestations can throw off your ability to manifest. So what it is now you're kind of chasing the manifestation, and you're focused so intently on the result that you're missing the other things that are coming in your path to help you get to the final goal. So manifestations sometimes don't just go, hey, from the thought to here it is. Oh, wow, wow, it's amazing. I just thought about it and it's here. That can happen. A lot of the times when you're going through the manifestation process, the things that you want to manifest require steps in order for you to get to them. And those steps are sometimes people coming into your life with ideas, concepts, offers, or situations that you need to take advantage of. But if you're so focused on the end result, you don't see the middle parts to get to the end result. Your discernment is completely off. And now windows of opportunities that have opened have now closed, because windows open, but windows also close. And so you can miss opportunities to get you to the end. I had a raffle for one of my Rolls Royces. I had one Rolls Royce. You, Richard, I've had now 4. All right, I just ordered my 5th one. The second one that I had, I decided to raffle it off. And a gentleman who won it was a homeless person who literally was living on an air mattress. He spent $50 on one raffle ticket. And he said, when I had him on my YouTube live, thanking him and congratulating him, he said, what I did was I focused on it. I meditated and I said, this is the winning ticket. He said, and then what I did was I bought the ticket with my last $50 and I let it go. He said, I released it. I believed the end before the end and I released it. That's his exact words. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And guess what? He won the raffle. Some people bought 20, 30 tickets, whatever the number was. One ticket, he won the raffle. He needed the money, so I sold the car. And after taxes, he ended up with $88,000. He got a new car. He got a used car, but for him, new. He got himself an apartment and got back on his feet and invested money into his business, which is doing very well right now. So it's all about not focusing and chasing how quick is this going to happen for me, or just release. He said on the video, watch the video. He said, I had forgotten I even bought a ticket. Because, by that time, 6-8 months went by. He's like, I thought you were calling me to buy a beat. You know what I'm saying? Because he makes beats.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all about releasing and letting go and just believing in the end, believing in completion before completion.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And I definitely, I think what y'all doing for the community is big, because it opens and it broadens people's mind and perspective. I remember, Billy, when you first did that raffle, people were like, what am I going to do with a Rolls Royce? And we're like, if you don't want it, sell it.
Exactly.
It's the same thing. Billy, I did a workshop on cryptocurrency, and people were like, we need gold. We don't need crypto. I'm like, if you make money in crypto, invest in gold.
Exactly.
And I told them when I got money with Bitcoin, I bought a kilo of gold and I showed it to everybody. I had a kilo and I spent about 50 grand on it at the time, was the price of gold. And I told people, listen, you have to broaden your mind. Like, everybody's like, Billy, what we gonna do with a Rolls Royce? Sell it if you don't want it. But I love the fact that you're opening up people's mind, Tim, Billy, and we need that, because we're so closed-minded because of our environment and what we're surrounded by, especially with the internet and social media. So I just love what both of you are doing.
No problem. Yeah, man.
Let's we're gonna do 2 more questions, then we're gonna get out of here. So let's do 2 more questions. Let's see, what are y'all talking about in the chat? All right, I see a lot of okay. This is interesting. Are astrological birth charts changed through manifesting and thoughts?
That's an interesting question.
To Billy, and then I'll jump on it after.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now astrological birth charts I used to believe that it was woo-woo, to be quite honest with you, astrology. And then I started studying something that had nothing to do with astrology. I was studying embryos being developed in the International Space Station. And during my study and research into those embryos being raised in a zero gravity environment, I discovered that the zero gravity had an effect on the way these embryos would develop. Also, depending on where the International Space Station was with other planetary and star alignments and moon alignments, those gravitational fields would also affect the way those embryos, these were frog embryos, would develop, tadpoles. I was like, this is pretty interesting. So these gravitational fields from planetary alignments are having direct effect on these embryos. So I said, wow, this is pretty amazing. Let me look a little bit deeper. So I started researching the moon's effect on human beings. When it's a full moon, the gravitational field actually increases. And on full moons, the police station actually puts more deputies on, and the hospital puts more people in the ER to work, because they know people are going to be coming in, because it has an effect on consciousness. So I said, now I need to go back to astrology. Maybe it's not as woo-woo as I thought it was. There probably are some charlatans in there, but however, there's some science to this now. So I do believe that based on the month, the day, the hour that you're born, and the current alignment of planets, moons, and stars underneath your sky where you're located, will have a specific gravitational field and magnetic field that interacts with the way that you've been developing in that womb the whole time and the time you come out. And it has a direct effect on your programming consciousness, not your spirit consciousness, but the programming code that this body continues to absorb 24/7. And so it could set down some parameters on how and what type of person you will be growing up. However, we know now in programming and computers that computers can be reprogrammed. There's hackers that hack into governments and software, and they hack even into the credit bureau, right? So hackers are here. So we know that there's ways to hack the system as well. And since your body is nothing more than a robotic program, it's not the spirit body, which is multidimensional, but the hardware part is reprogrammable. You can hack it. You can change the code. No matter what the parameter that's been set on you, you can go in and you can rewrite things. And so that's one of the things we're going to teach people, how to rewrite. How do you rewrite DNA? How do you rewrite the RNA? Something that hardly anybody teaches. And some scientific studies done showing how this can be done, and we're going to do it in the workshop as well.
I like this. And I also think that we can position ourselves in the right places and positions for beautiful manifestations to take place. And as Billy said, whether it's the full moon, whether it's walking by the beach, whether it's spending time in the wilderness, there's so many things that people are not paying attention to. Sometimes you just need to get off concrete and get away from just people and population and put yourself in a different place.
Yeah.
And I see different and greater manifestations take place.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, definitely, indeed. Let's get to one last question. I'm telling you, this is gonna be a great workshop, y'all. Wow. Let's get to one. This is a very popular problem that people have in this realm of existence. Why do people take advantage of my kindness? Should I be more ruthless? Very popular problem in this realm of existence.
I could help answer that.
Yeah.
So number one, you should not be more ruthless. I think that compassion is a key that opens the door to miracles. People that are compassionate, I see them living longer. I see them living stronger. I see more doors opening for them. But at the same time, you could be compassionate and not be a fool. And compassionate and not being taken advantage of.
Right.
And so once again, is that you got to protect that green room. So there's a lot of people I'm going to meet. That's my acquaintance. That may be my family member, and I'll see you at Thanksgiving and Christmas. But I'm not bringing you in to my green room, and you're not gonna hear my secrets and what I'm really, really thinking. I'm going to speak to you in parables.
What you mean by green room, Tim?
The green room to me is that inner place, like we talked about earlier. Like if you were to go to a convention and we were all speaking, right? And they say, here's your green room, your place to prepare and your place to rest after. And so what I think is we gotta be compassionate, we gotta be kind, but we also gotta protect ourselves. Here's something that I think a lot of people who call themselves thought leaders make a huge mistake. They talk about, I just want to just give everything. I just want to just give everything. I don't see it that way. Even the Bible says only a fool tells his whole heart. There are some people that cannot handle your amazing answer.
That's right. That's a fact. That's an absolute fact. I tell people all the time, my circle is so small, it's a dot. I know a lot of people. Listen, I have 6,800 phone numbers in this sucker, this phone. 6,800 in the phone. But guess what? I only have a few friends. These are acquaintances. And I'll tell them that to their face. Hey, man, we down, we're cool and everything, but, business, networking, whatever on that level. But in the inner circle, it's a dot. It's an absolute dot. You got to protect your energy at all costs. You have to realize that our mission on this planet is so vital and so intricate and so draining at times. We have to protect our energy. We need it. We can't allow the energy vampires to steal it from us. We have to protect it. Our mission is just too great to allow that to happen. And like Tim says, only a small amount of people are coming in that green room, that private area where, we can really vibe. A very, very small number. Like I said, and I'll be real with people. Look, nobody's running around here going, oh, Billy's my best friend. There's a few guys that I know that I would say this is my friend. As most people are just acquaintances. And there's a definite separation there within that, within that title, let's just say. And it's important that you make and you establish those boundaries. Otherwise, you will get taken. I was a victim of that. I had family members pulling on me. I've been very successful from a very early age. I didn't get rich on Instagram selling T-shirts. I was saying I was a millionaire long before Instagram was even built. I had family members asking me for cars, houses, pay all these bills. My car insurance is past due. Bail this one out of jail. This so-and-so died. You got to pay for the funeral. This one died. You got to pay. And it was just like this cycle. It was like every time something would happen, it was like, call Billy. These weren't $200, $300 problems. These were thousands and thousands of dollar problems.
Yeah.
I had to get to the point where I realized, you know what? If I keep giving and giving and giving like this, I ain't going to have nothing for myself.
Yeah.
I came to the realization, you know what? I'm going to have to draw a line in the sand, and I'm going to have to say, hey, no more. I'm going to pick and choose. And if I can't afford to lose what I'm going to give you, you can't have it, because I'm never going to get it back. If I can afford to lose it, take it. If I can't afford to lose it, you won't get it. Period, point blank.
Man, what an awesome show. I love that green room analogy, Tim. I mean, this was just from start to finish. This was an amazing show. I want to thank y'all once again for coming on here. And one last time before we get out here, please leave your info for this workshop.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. It's the Manifest Destiny Workshop. It's Billy Carson, Tim Storey, Elizabeth Hoekstra, and Antonina Sanford. If you type in Billy Carson on eventbrite.com or click the link that's pinned in the comments here, you'll be able to get to the workshop, register for it. It's going to be January 29th, 1 p.m. till 8 p.m. It's going to be an incredible workshop all day, interactive. And also we're having a licensed trauma release specialist to teach you how to release the trauma from your body that was created by a real doctor, not a fake doctor, not that doctors are fake, but a person that went and did all this schooling and spent all those hundreds of thousands of dollars, developed this, and it was accepted, which is hard to do when something like that, which seems woo-woo, becomes accepted and is based on how animals release trauma in the wild. That's why there's a base study to this. And so it's going to be an amazing trauma release. A lot of people are going to be releasing trauma that's been built up in their body for so long. When you have trauma building up and building up and building up over decades, it gets to here. When it gets to the top, it spills out into your reality, into the third dimension. That's why your house is a mess. That's why your car's a mess. That's why you can't do good on your job. You're failing at this and failing at that. The chaos that's been built up in here and the trauma that's been built up in here, now it's spilling out. There's nowhere else for it to go in the body. It's manifesting itself everywhere you turn and everywhere you look. You're creating the garbage and the mess all around yourself. Well, we got to clean the vessel so that the only thing coming out is pure light.
All right. Tim, you want to close to anything you want to let the people know about how to contact you or anything before we get out of here?
I just want to say
website, books, all of that, Tim.
I want to say what a great job you did.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You know, as host, and your mindset is like next level.
Thank you.
So I look forward to seeing you continue just to take off and do what you do. So if you were just to look for me, it's just Tim Storey, Storey. So timstorey.com is my website. Tim Storey Official is my Instagram. Yeah.
Indeed. All right. So y'all got it. Once again, the workshop is pinned. The link is pinned at the top of this chat. I will also put it in the description at the end of this video. Family, thank you for tuning in. I mean, such a magnificent show. I advise everybody to play this one over, play it back. You can learn so much. The whole family dynamic, the trauma release, the green room analogy. I mean, it goes on and on. Constant gems throughout this show. It was a top show, family. So we're getting out of here. See you next time. Tim, thank you. Billy, thank you. Peace, everyone.
Thank you.
Peace.